Welcome to PCMC Pop Culture Man Children. I'm your host, Mike Bongiorno. I am here today with my friend, my good friend and yours, Mr. Peter Marsh. How are you, Peter?
Mike, I am super excited about what we're talking about today.
I can see your loincloth we're both wearing loincloths today in honor of the film.
Yeah.
No, this is there have been 3 Masters Universe movies, an animated film, the 1987 film, and this, and we've covered the first 2 on the podcast. So welcome back. We are talking about 2026's Masters Universe, not a box office hit, but it got its ass kicked by Scary Movie 6.
Oh.
And they said that the demographics, most of the people that saw Masters Universe were like 45 and over.
Yep.
Which is, well, I'm only 42, so there you go.
Yeah.
I'm a young buck. But anyway, here at PCMC, we don't give a shit about how much money something makes. We care about its value. And let me start by saying, Peter, how are you?
I'm great, man. I have seen this movie twice at this point, and I think my review would have been slightly different if I had only seen it once. But like I feel like there's a lot for us to talk about, and I feel like our previous discussions have like set this up pretty perfectly because we spent our last discussion talking about what this movie might be like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I realized that this is the movie I've waited longest for. Because like Ghostbusters in 2016, we got a remake. And then in 2020 or 2021, whatever it was, we got Afterlife. There's really been no He-Man between 1987 and now. There's been like the Kevin Smith shows, which I thought were good, and She-Ra on Netflix. But this is like probably the most. The original Master Universe has a stinger scene, like way before Marvel, where Skeletor says, "I'll be back," and I waited my whole life for him to fulfill that promise.
Yeah.
I agree with you too, by the way. I've seen it twice. And the first time I saw it I was honestly in a very bad mood because work's been very hard for me as of late, and I took a few days off, but I still hadn't unwound. And I liked a lot about when I first saw it, but then I saw it again a few days later, and I really loved it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I saw it twice. I actually would love to see it a third time before it disappears from the theaters. But yeah, I think we should talk about what we liked, what we loved, what we didn't like, because I think my personal belief is that this is a movie with a lot of flaws. And I think the thing that really bugs me is I think if you were to fix some of these flaws, this could be a great movie.
Yep. Yes, totally agree. 1000%.
So, what was your experience? Well, all right. So let me just outright. What do you think of this movie? What grade would you give it?
Oh, that is a great way to start. Yes. So I think that I would give this movie an 8 out of 10.
Nice. Okay. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying like, okay, let's talk about what we loved, what we liked, what we didn't like. I will say right away, right off the bat, one of the things I loved was the initial theme that they use a couple of times in the movie. It's not the theme from the He-Man cartoon. It's not the theme from the 1987 movie or any of the other shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's this theme that's original for this movie. It starts right away. Modern movies, they always have all the different production studios. You see all their little
Yeah.
whatever you call them, like the logos or whatever. And they have this song that just sounds like it's like this 1980s, progressive rock band playing the score.
Yeah.
And it just sort of builds and builds. It's so good. And it's over like Adam's narration in the very first couple of minutes. I love that part. I was like so excited to see that again when
Yeah.
I saw it the second time.
Yeah. No, the music in this movie is great. The composer is Daniel Pemberton. But he worked with what's his name from Queen?
Brian May.
Brian May from Queen. And it has a very Queen I think this movie evokes Flash Gordon a lot. And this movie has a very like metal kind of coolness to it, which I think was a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to the soundtrack and humming it.
Yep.
and there's actually like a chorus, and they're going like Eternia, Eternia. So I've been
Yeah.
humming that. But no, the music is absolutely incredible to the point where I wasn't missing the classic theme. But then, oh, by the way, I should say spoiler alert. We should say spoiler alert for everything with this movie, okay?
Yeah.
But then at the very end, when they do give you a new sort of metalized version of the animated theme, I was thrilled.
Yep.
But I wasn't waiting for it. I was like, okay, I like this music. This music's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're pretty lucky because the He-Man theme is so iconic. Then the 1987 movie had this great score that was very derivative of like the Superman theme
Yeah.
and Star Wars. And then this, I mean, if we're going to talk about this movie, we have to talk about Travis Knight and the choices that he made.
Yeah.
And, it's very, very clear this is a person that really loved the source material. And, one thing that I've talked about a lot on your channel has been Transformers, and he did the Bumblebee movie.
Yeah.
I always say, I've probably said on your show that like the first 3 minutes of the Bumblebee movie, which is like this battle on Cybertron, is like the best live action Transformers,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and I feel like this movie, essentially, besides the stuff that takes place on Earth, this movie is like that scene on Cybertron.
Well, like, yeah, I agree. So he mostly does animation, right?
Yeah,
He runs or is high up in Leica. He actually has another film that's coming out very soon called Wildwood, which
yeah,
we reviewed the trailer on the show, the last episode. And even though we had talked about Master Universe, I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't realize that he's directed that film too. He also
yeah,
directed a film that I love and I watch every single Halloween called Paranorman.
yep.
Um, so so as a big liberal, I have mixed feelings about Travis Knight because
Okay.
I think I think he's a great filmmaker. He seems like a very nice guy. I can feel his love. The point I was trying to make, by the way, is that in this and in Bumblebee, you can see that it's an animation guy doing live action, and because he brings a animation mindset when it comes to color and composition that I think works so well.
Yep.
My problems with him are, well, it's not even him. It's unfair. It's more his dad. His dad is Phil Knight,
Okay.
who created Nike, who is famous for really bad work and labor practices, exploiting people in some cases like forced labor and really, really crazy, inhumane shit. And that's not his fault, but also he obviously benefited as a child through that.
Yeah.
And also the company Leica was not his, but it was hostily taken over.
Oh,
so
really?
you can't blame the son for the sins of the father, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's better than the director of the 1987 Master Universe movie for sure. That guy's a real piece of shit.
Jesus. Yeah, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about the fact that he was a rapper at one point too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. He was. Yeah, he was a rapper. But I didn't mean to throw like a wet blanket on what you were saying because I do think he's uncynical actually. Like when you
Sure.
hear him talk about Master Universe, you hear his genuine affection for it.
Hmm.
He did say once that he didn't want the movie to be ironic, and I think in some ways he failed because I think
Yeah.
this movie
Yeah.
does try to be ironic sometimes, and that's one of its weaknesses.
Absolutely agree. Yes.
But he does have a love for it. Like there's a post credit, one of the big post credit sequences shows She-Ra,
Yep.
and I was thrilled watching it because I'm a huge She-Ra fan,
Me too.
and I thought that there would be some kind of She-Ra post credit scene, but I thought it was going to end. It's Adam's mother and Man at Arms, and she's saying, "Oh, I gave up hope on him. I gave up hope on both of them." And then
Right.
Man at Arms says, "Well, maybe one day she'll come back to us too." So I was like, "Wow, this is great." I thought it was going to end there, but
Right.
then they cut to She-Ra's sword and her, and like she just transformed, and you see the back of her, and you see the fright zone, which looked amazing, and it was thrilling. But part of me was like, wow, they really, because they'll have to retcon that. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, the actress that's playing her is not going to play her. He wants us. He has in mind an actress he wants to play her.
Okay.
So the voice will be different. It'll be like how Thanos is kind of different in the
Yep.
Avengers post credit scene.
Right.
But I also I could see his love because he said, you know what? I don't know if we're gonna get to make a sequel. This might be our only shot at putting She-Ra in live action. Let's just go for broke, even if we have to retcon it later.
Yep. That's
So he has love. You could feel the love coming from him.
right. Right. But I think if we're gonna like, I mean, I know we're kind of all over the place already, but like, if we're gonna talk about things that we don't like about the movie, that irony, it reminds me of like X-Men, the original X-Men movie from 2001,
Yes,
when like there's a bit of embarrassment about the source material. Like he obviously loves the source material, but there's things that are built into the script to make it kind of be like, yeah, yeah, we know this is stupid, you
I
know?
know, I know, and I got to tell you, I hated that
Yeah,
because I mean, look, the second time I saw it, I had more fun with it. I kind of was like, okay, whatever. Let me turn my brain off and just enjoy it. Um, but like I think people are misframing some things. A lot of people going, it's too funny, or it's trying to be too funny and it's not that funny. Um,
right.
there's a great line from a critic. Um, I got, you know how they have like the little blurbs on Rotten Tomatoes. This guy
Yes.
is Fred Topel from United Press International. I don't even know what that means. UPI.
Yeah.
He says a fun He-Man movie trapped inside a bad comedy,
I've seen
which
that
I
review.
kind of agree with that.
Yep.
I think it could be a great movie trapped inside a bad comedy. Okay, but anyway, my point is that I don't think the comedy is the problem. Jokes are fine. Marvel does it all the time and it works. James Gunn does it better than anybody to the point where
Yeah.
everyone kind of tries to copy him.
Yeah.
The problem is when it's not just comedy, when it's making fun of itself. Like you said, it's like embarrassed for what it is. And you know what? When you look at Marvel, Marvel never does that. To its credit, like Marvel will have tons of comedy, tons of jokes, but they're never going, "Hey, isn't it stupid that I dress like a spider and they call me Spider-Man? How dumb is that?" No, they
Yeah.
never do jokes like that.
I wouldn't go that far. You know,
Yeah.
one of my favorite reviews, they're like, here's 5 words to sum up this movie. We have Marvel at home, right? And
Yeah.
and I feel like it definitely has the feeling of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I wouldn't say that all like there's fucking like 36 Marvel movies, or maybe even more. It might be like be 40 at this
Right,
point.
right.
There's definitely moments where like they kind of make fun of the source material. It's not that frequent, but I think that the bigger problem is that there used to be more Marvel movies when you would have like a very dramatic beat, like this very like cool, awesome moment, and you're feeling the emotions, and then all of a sudden there'd be like a stop, and there'd be like a joke about,
Yeah.
like, and the joke would kill the excitement. This movie actually does that like both times that Adam turns into He-Man. Like
Yes.
both times he turns into He-Man, there's a joke right after versus like him doing something as He-Man that's exciting. Like
Yeah.
I can't think of a lot of Marvel examples, but one example I think of right away is in the first Doctor Strange, which I don't think is like that great a movie. I would rate that lower than this. Um, when he puts on his cloak, which is like alive and moves around,
Right.
he's looking in the mirror and it's like, oh, here he is in his full costume. And then, like, for just some stupid random reason, the cape just smacks him in the face, like as a joke.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
falls so flat. Like, one thing I would say is, you said the jokes are good. I do think the jokes are good, but I do think that not everyone lands. I think
No,
that
for
they're,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but
Okay,
I
so yeah, you make a good point. Not there are a million Marvel movies, and sometimes they do, but like you said, like I think the best Marvel movies don't really do that. I think
yeah,
it's always bad to be apologizing for what you are to the audience
yeah,
because, and you're right, like those moments. There are moments in this movie, right? Like when King Randor dies,
yeah,
that are good, and I think that are genuinely like emotional, and you think like, okay, good, but then like 2 seconds later, there's some stupid making fun of itself joke, and it's like, well, just have the guts to do it.
Yeah.
You know, in some way, as much as I love this movie, in some ways, I would say that the first season of Masters of the Universe Revelation is better because it's comedy, it's got Kevin Smith, but that show didn't seem too ashamed of what it is.
No, no. You know, with this movie, the main sin, I think, the main problem is that the characters don't have their names from the toys that we go to
Oh,
expect. Like Fisto isn't his name isn't Fisto, it's a name that Adam's given him, right?
I agree.
And and like I kind of struggled with that both times. I like the second time I was kind of more forgiving. I'm like, okay, that's like what they use to explain these ridiculous names that no one would ever call themselves. And it's funny too because I think that like Evelyn even gets on it at one point because
Yeah,
Moss Man is in this movie and Skeletor's like, what's his name? And Evelyn's like Moss Man, and you can
yeah,
kind of almost feel like she's winging it.
yeah.
But I think that that might be the biggest problem. I think like a good metaphor for this is you know, imagine if you're going on a date and you're trying to score with your partner. This is your first date, and you keep kind of making jokes about yourself. Be like,
Yeah,
this is the way my car is.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
this is
yeah.
my address. And then it's like you're expecting to like seal the deal, even though you've been making fun of yourself the whole time. That's kind of what this movie's like. It's like, we know this is stupid, but like you
Yes.
should be really excited now, you know?
Yeah, it almost because in some ways it's like making fun of the audience. Like, hey man, we're here, we bought a ticket. Don't make fun of me for liking this.
Yeah,
Like that's the weird thing because you think, okay, like who is this movie for?
yeah,
It seems to mostly be for fans of the original, which maybe is why it doesn't have that wide an appeal in the box office. But if that's true, then you don't need to do all of this, like, hand wringing about, like, oh, isn't this stupid? Because
yeah,
I'm already bought into it. You know, it also doesn't make sense. Like, you have this super fantastical world, but then you're like, oh, but the names are too stupid. We have to have some in world reason for that. No, like, to me, that makes no sense. Like you think about like okay, like in the Dark Knight Rises, right? Catwoman, no one ever calls her Catwoman. She has goggles that she wears that when she puts on her head, they kind of resemble cat ears. And there's like one scene where like the newspaper refers to her as the cat.
right.
That's it, right? Like that's how Nolan would handle those things, but that's because his idea of Batman was like as grounded as possible.
Yes.
But you don't need something like that in a movie this crazy and colorful. Like the tire can talk. So what? Like so this guy's name is Fisto. Who gives a shit? Because then you still have like his name is he's a skeleton man. His name is Skeletor. Adam didn't name him Skeletor. His name is actually Skeletor.
Right.
And to me, the biggest thing that like, and it bummed me out a lot the first time I saw it, was that he says he named himself He-Man. Like I didn't even realize that no one called him He-Man through the whole movie. And then Tila is like, well, first of all, she goes, "Did you have a name for me?" And he says, "Goddess Warrior," which I like because that's what it said on her action figure as her description, Goddess Warrior.
Yeah.
And then she goes, "Did you have a name for yourself?" And he's like, "I don't want to say it." And it is funny. I genuinely laughed because everyone's like, "Come on, say it." And he goes, "He-Man." And then Roboto, who's played by Kristen Wiig, is like, "Oh, that's worse than I even thought it would be." So like, I thought it
Right.
was genuinely funny, but it's also stupid. I mean, maybe I sound like an old man. He-Man's an actual phrase.
Yeah.
Like that's He-Man doesn't mean anything to people now, but like it used to mean like Macho Man. Like, oh, look,
Right.
he's a He-Man. Like the
Right.
Little Rascals had a club called the He-Man Woman Haters Club.
Yeah.
Not to sound like an old man, but I don't know. The first time I saw it really upset me. The second time I laughed at it and I enjoyed it, but I also still think that if you remove things like that,
Yeah.
the whole thing could be stronger.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question that's tied to all of this. If we remove things, could we have removed the part on Earth?
We could have tightened it a lot.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'd say one of my problems is this movie's too long, but that's almost my problem with every movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Almost every major movie is too long now.
Yeah.
I would have tightened it. I like a lot of the stuff on Earth, but I would have literally just a little bit of trimming, like him in the comic book store, I would have trimmed that down a little bit. I like
Yeah,
him with HR because I like that it sets up his genuine humanity and his empathy is what makes him good at his job.
yeah,
And the roommate I don't think is always funny, but I like the thing that the roommate is always watching like these romantic movies while he's alone because it feeds into the theme of toxic masculinity and
yes.
what a real man is, which I think, by the way, is very strong. I really love the thing I love most about this movie is the whole idea of what is a man and Adam figuring out what kind of a man he is and Skeletor being kind of like a kind of like neck beard kind of man baby, not in a good way like this show, but a man baby like he's like a crybaby. Like Evelyn is always like rolling her eyes at him. He's petulant. And I like that they showed him as that way
Yeah.
because it shows that Adam and his genuine empathy is what makes him strong.
Like I think that uh, there's obviously a lot of talk about this movie, especially the fact that it's not successful.
Sure.
And you'll see things on social media where there'll be people responding to other people's comments about this movie, and you'll have the people that are kind of on the far right that are like, oh, they like made him so weak and stupid, right? And then you see one person's response to that where they're saying he's weak and stupid, like he figured out how to break everyone out of prison. He we're talking spoilers. He crushes the Havoc staff with his hand. You
Yeah.
know, he takes on all of Skeletor's bad guys in Snake Mountain. He stops that one, toy that has the sort of saw blade at the end that's spinning, that's flying, and he stops it with his hands. So I remember I saw that quote before I saw it a second time, and I'm like, yeah, he does do these like sort of aggressive macho things, but I know that there's always a political agenda when people talk about movies now,
Yeah.
and there are people that are like, oh well, they sort of like neutered He-Man. And then like if you go to like Steve Shrives' review, this guy that we both sort of enjoy, um, he's talking about all the complaints that people might have, and he's saying how like the original cartoon isn't great. I think we mentioned that in our
Oh yeah.
review of the She-Ra movie, the animated movie. Like the source material isn't this like impeccable thing
No.
that they like lowered the standards of. The quality of this is stronger than, I mean, every He-Man thing except for maybe that CGI animated He-Man show and the Kevin Smith
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and there's so much in what you just said that that excited me to have something to say. Uh,
good.
um, well, oh God, we're already half. We can talk about this for 9 hours, so I'm trying to keep it going. All right, so we're already halfway through this episode. Um, let's talk about some of the things we. All right. So, all right, let me just address this. I think that one of the smart things this movie does, and this is to your last point, is Adam in the original cartoon, Adam and He-Man share memories and stuff, but they're really almost different human beings. Like when he becomes He-Man, he's like a different person. And in this, that doesn't happen. He's still Adam, he's just now stronger. And but he can be just as goofy. And I actually think that of all the bad comedy, that Nicholas Galitzine is actually pretty funny. And I think that the characterization of Adam really works for me.
Yes.
It made me genuinely like him, and I think it's very smart that he doesn't become a different person in this movie. He
Yes.
is Adam, and then he becomes He-Man, but he's still basically just Adam.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard this. I just heard this recently. I don't know if Steve Shrive said it or someone else, but do you know in the original animated series they wanted it to be like Billy Batson and Shazam, but then they realized that they'd have to draw a child, so they were like, "No, let's just make him the exact same character and then change his clothes just for cheap animation reasons."
That sounds on brand.
Um, but all right, can we talk about the action?
Yeah, we can talk about whatever you want.
All right, I think the action in this movie is incredible, and this is, by the way, going back to why Bumblebee is so much better than all the Michael Bay ones, which is
Okay.
like he shows you the action. He's not ashamed of it. He doesn't hide it in cuts. He doesn't obscure it. You could see what's happening. All right, going back to the Barbie movie. In the Barbie movie, we wouldn't have this movie if not for the Barbie movie, by the way. In the Barbie movie, which I've seen like 9 times, I think it's a great movie. When Barbie wakes up, on like her bedroom, she floats down to the ground and she doesn't walk down. And I remember when I saw it, I didn't totally understand it. And then my wonderful, brilliant girlfriend Jen said she does that because that's how you play with it as a kid. Like you don't make the doll go down the steps. You just bring it down. So it's
Right.
like, oh, okay. And thinking about that is what made me think about. I thought about that with this because He-Man has a sword, but he never cuts anybody. And I was like, why doesn't he cut anybody? Is it because they don't want violence? Not really, because people die in this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
I realize it's the same idea as the Barbie floating down. They want it to look like action figures.
Yes.
When He-Man hits you with his sword, he doesn't cut you, he flings you across the room. And
Yep.
there's a lot of wire work. Everybody's on wires and everybody's bouncing all over the place. And it's because it's like action figures fighting. And once I
Absolutely.
got that, I was like, that is so brilliant and smart.
Yep.
It's like if you had your He-Man figure and you hit somebody else with the sword, you're gonna knock them over. And
Yep.
that's what he does. And to me, the first great action scene is when he goes to Snake Mountain and he first meets Skeletor and he brings out Spikor and Karg, and which by the way is a reference to the 87 movie, which I love.
Yeah.
And Goatman, which is like a character from one of the mini comics.
Yeah.
And who is there anyone else I'm forgetting in that
Um,
scene?
the Tricops.
Yes, yeah. And he brings out a bunch of people and He-Man just fucks them all up.
Yeah.
Well, at one point there's somebody like stuck to Spiker's back and he punches him and then Spiker turns around and he punches him again and he's just fucking everyone and then everyone's like stuck to the walls. It's so fucking cool. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that sequence may be my favorite part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I've said this before in the show, but like, I know I love a movie, or I consider a movie to be great when it's like I know a scene is coming up, and I'm getting excited about it. And then if there's
Yeah.
multiple scenes like that, I was so excited about this scene. We could just talk about this scene, and that could be our whole episode right here. But
Yes.
what I love about this scene is there's this sort of like metal music playing when they first start fighting, and then at one point the tempo of the song changes. It's like kind of fast,
Yeah.
and then it gets slow as he like fights them like a second time. Like he fights them all first time, knocks them all away, then they all kind of rally and charge him again, and then the music kind of slows down the tempo. Like it's like
Yeah.
being at a concert. You
Yeah.
know,
Wow.
you're
Yeah.
all excited and stuff, and then it's like, oh, we're slowing it down. And it is like exactly like you said, where it's like action figures fighting each other, but then it's also like the cartoon where it's like, okay, He-Man's gonna go fight all Skeletors like lieutenants, like his his
Yeah.
team. And
Yeah.
it is like so fucking good. Like you mentioned the fact that Karg is in it. Like I felt like a little tingling below my loincloth when you mentioned that, because I just love the fact that they have this villain that was made for the live action movie and he's in this fight scene. You said that He-Man just kind of swats people away. That's true. But at one point, he does stab Karg with the sword of power, and he's like
Yeah.
sticking and feeling. You
Yeah.
know, I love that part so much.
Yeah. Well, I love, and again, like Travis Knight, you can tell, like, a lot of old school fans don't like the original movie, but now it's become a kind of a cult classic. And I think a younger generation likes it a lot. Not like the youngest people, but like maybe like the mid generation. And
Yeah,
there's references to it. There's
absolutely.
multiple references to that movie in it. And I'm glad because that movie's awesome.
There is the biggest, most obvious reference where Dolph Lundgren is in the
Oh,
gym with the guy who's playing Adam now, and it's like so on the nose, it's ridiculous. Like Adam says to him, "Hey, you got any advice for the new guy?" And they're trying to frame it like he's new to the gym,
yeah.
but it's just basically like saying like, "Oh, I'm the new He-Man. What do you
Yeah, yeah,
recommend?"
yeah.
And then he like, I feel like his little advice is sort of strange. He's like, you got to get behind yourself. I know the sentiment behind it,
Yeah.
but the wording is kind of awkward. And then of course it's just perfect where he's like, "Hey kid, good journey," and he does like
Yeah.
little hand symbol. It's like, oh my god, chef's kiss. That's so fucking
I
good.
know it's so great. It's so great.
Yeah,
And he uses that advice later on when he's trying to rally the troops. He goes, "We got to get behind ourselves, not in front of ourselves."
right.
And the first thing Dolph Lundgren says is like, "You took my place" or something like that.
Yeah, you took my
You,
spot.
Yeah, he took my
Yeah,
spot. Yeah, it's
yeah,
awesome. It's fucking awesome. And he looks great, by the way. For his, he still looks incredible.
yeah.
Dolph Lundgren.
I mean, we could segue that theme. Like, we could talk about like emotionally what's so great about this movie because you've been talking about toxic masculinity, and then we've been talking about people's perception of He-Man and stuff like that, especially like the far right's perception. And Adam is portrayed as a child, as like a weakling.
Yeah,
He gets like beat up during his training routine in the beginning, and he seems like he's insufficient. His father, there's this really great scene where his father steps into the ring with him as a kid and just like kind of humiliates him.
yeah,
And then we know that like one of his motivating factors is to show that he's tough and masculine in front of his father. And he's able to do that in that scene that we've been talking about. He just
yeah,
like fucking destroys this army of Skeletor villains. But it's a great idea of like that you have to put on this facade in front of your father. So I get the idea if they're saying like you have to get behind yourself, like if Dolph Lundgren is saying that like if you're putting on a facade, it's not gonna work. If you believe in yourself or like believe in who you actually are, then you'll be successful. I think that's actually a very strong message.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I
Yeah,
agree. I mean, the thing that really I was like, okay, this is a great movie was the entire ending. The
yeah,
entire ending worked so well. I mean, like the final fight and He-Man's interaction with the sorceress. Like, so in the end, he's fighting Skeletor, and Skeletor shoots at before Adam can transform. He shoots the sword, and the sword breaks. And I was like, I was like clutching my pearls. I was like, oh my god! So the sword breaks, which is really an interesting image and really great and surprising. And then Skeletor like takes what's left of the sword and like stabs him in the chest and kills him.
perfect.
And actually, I say before that, Skeletor's like using psychic powers to like go into his mind. And there's some really interesting and also funny stuff where like Skeletor is at the gym and he's like, and everyone keeps calling him Jim Bro Skeletor and saying, we want an action figure of Jim Bro Skeletor. And then he's at the date that he had a bad date in the beginning of the movie. And it's, Skeletor all these interesting, like, Earth outfits. But he's also kind of, like, invading his memory and saying, like, this place is not, you don't belong in this place. Eternia is just a fantasy that you don't belong in.
Right.
Um, and it's really, like, it makes the battle emotional, not just physical. And,
Yeah, it's a great scene because it's like really dark for Adam because it's
yeah,
basically saying like you are a failure on Earth where you're not doing this, and you're a failure in Eternia where you're sort of like living this dream. Like because of your situation, you don't work in either
yeah,
environment. And it's really dark. Like always in the third act, the hero's supposed to hit this like lowest point, and that's such a great way to show his
yeah.
lowest point.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then he has a conversation with the sorceress who I think they beautifully used her
yeah,
because just like in the cartoon, she shouldn't be used too much and she should be mysterious. And she says like, she says like previous champions of Eternia will all had brute strength. Like I picked you because you have empathy and humanity and you have more than just strength. And
right,
she says like, what are the merge? And he says, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. And she's like, right, you have the power. The sword
right,
isn't and Kevin Smith's show kind of did this a little bit too. The sword isn't the vessel, you're the vessel.
right.
And then he gets back up and he pulls the sword out and he's glowing and he's alive and the sword comes together and Skeletor's like, oh shit. And
Yes,
but then like in a great moment, like he becomes He-Man, but then he puts the sword down and he's like, let's just talk. Which is
right.
something he's tried throughout the movie. And he tries to appeal to Skeletor in like I mean it's played funny, but I also think like it's saying something genuinely good about like maybe being He-Man isn't just about fighting, it's about like having empathy.
Oh,
Which I think is the original show is that way too. I mean, like Adam in the original show he's like Superman. He's perfect.
yeah,
Um, but then Skeletor's like, no, there's no good in me. And then they fight, and Adam, without his sword, basically like just punches the shit out of him, which is
yeah,
really cool and interesting. And
yeah,
then using his hand, he just breaks the Havoc staff.
Yeah,
But what's interesting is he's even when he realizes that the physicality isn't what makes him strong, he even becomes more physically strong because
right,
that's not the root of his strength.
right, right, right.
I
Yeah,
think that
and
all works so well. I love the blending of the fantastical world with the human world, and the sorceress is in his human bedroom, and all of that, and the humor and the heart, and I just think it's so smart, and I think it's so like this is the way to modernize He-Man. And as much as this movie isn't subtle, I actually think that nobody looks at the screen and goes, "Isn't toxic masculinity bad?" Like it's really not like overly, to use the rights term, like quote unquote woke. Like it
yeah,
has a liberal sensibility, but it actually, I think, handles it in a very sophisticated way.
yeah. I 100% agree with you. I do love the ending quite a bit. That scene with Skeletor where he goes, into He-Man's mind. I think that got the biggest laugh because he has that one line of like, you know, dangling your sword, dangling between those milky
Yes,
thighs, or whatever
yeah.
he said. And that's when the audience laughed the most, is when he said that one line. But my favorite part actually is when he's in the HR office and he's like, "What is this?" Like Skeletor says, "What is this?" And I love that because even in the 1987 movie, there's such a juxtaposition between Earth and Eternia where they're just like so different from each other.
Yeah,
Like Skeletor can't even like process like what the hell is HR.
right,
You know,
right.
I love the fact that it's like so different. It's like, you could live in this world that is like your kid's fantasy dream come true. Like you said, this movie's so metal. Eternia is like one of those vans that has the, painting on the side.
Perfectly said. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it's like you could live in this or you could live in the fucking cubicle world of corporate America. And I love that like Skeletor like can't even process it. I think what we have to talk about, it goes without saying, we have to talk about Jared Leto as Skeletor.
yes, I agree.
So I mean, I can get the ball rolling if you want. I actually think that Jared Leto
Yeah.
as Skeletor is the best part of this movie.
Hmm.
And I mean, the second best part of this movie is fucking Trapjaw. Trapjaw is
Right.
amazing in this movie. Skeletor is even better though. Like it's so unfortunate that there's this stigma about Jared Leto playing Skeletor, and it probably has hurt the box office somewhat for this movie.
Yeah.
But like, if you said it was a different actor, I would believe you.
Well,
And then
it's an amazing performance, and
yeah,
it's got a lot of different layers to it. I don't, the whole Jared Leto's box office poison thing, like whatever. I think he's a good actor. He's won an Oscar. My problem is that Jared Leto is a garbage person who's been accused of sexual assault by multiple women, some who were say they were underage when he assaulted them. Like he's a garbage human,
yeah,
but he is incredible in this.
yep,
Um, and he's funny. Like to me, I think the biggest laugh in the movie is after He-Man says, "Let's talk," and then he doesn't want to talk. Then He-Man starts punching the shit out of him, beating him up, and then Skeletor's on the floor, and he's like, "Okay, let's talk. What do you want to talk about?"
right,
It's like,
right, right.
really
That's
funny.
excellent. Yeah,
He's funny. He's scary. He's kind of a domestic abuser towards
yep,
Evelyn, which is maybe too intense for this movie, but I kind of like that he's such a bad person.
yes.
No, I think he's incredible. He's I and I know
Part of
he did play him on set. He did play him on set.
Yeah. Well, part of what's so excellent about this Skeletor is the skull itself and the way that like it moves, like to show his facial expressions.
Yeah,
Like he shows genuine like shock and fear. There's little subtle things where he kind of like is looking around, like, did you hear me? And I think that what makes the skull work so much is that they've added these like little glowing orbs in its
yeah,
socket.
yeah.
Where in the original cartoon and the Kevin Smith thing, there's no eyes there whatsoever.
It's just black.
But
Yeah,
those eyes, and they even kind of like glow. They almost give off like a lens flare a couple of
yeah,
times in the movie. Um, kind of hinting at that there's this great power within him. Um, I just love like his voice. It's interesting because like you think there's such a stark contrast between this animated Skeletor and his voice, and then Frank Langella's Skeletor. They're like two different characters completely.
yes.
Um, and then this is
But
some
there's a
sort of
little
like
bit of Frank Langella in there, I think. He's
Right.
almost. I think he's almost a combination of the original animation and Frank Langella. Because when he's scary, he feels like that Skeletor.
Right, right, right. There's many shots of Skeletor just sort of like walking menacingly towards something, and he looks amazing. Then
Yeah,
there's like parts where he's like laughing. I can't tell you how much I love this Skeletor. They do this one part where it's like the Frank Langella scene where he's like projected in the skies of Eternia, and they do that
yeah,
too. And he's like talking, and it's the dialogue seems like he's talking directly to Adam,
yeah,
but he was obviously addressing all of Eternia. And then he like laughs, and since he's made out of like light in the clouds, like the light glows through his ribs.
yeah,
I love that so much. Skeletor
yeah.
was so good.
Skeletor's awesome. Yeah.
So
Um.
do you want to talk about how fucking awesome Trapjaw is?
Well, I want to extend that a little bit. I want to talk about how much I really like Man at Arms and his story in it and his
Yeah.
arc, which is closely related to Trapjaw. They make it
Yes.
like they are like mortal enemies.
Yep.
But yeah, I didn't expect Trapjaw to be like such a big part of this movie and to be so good in it. But Man
Yeah.
at Arms, like he's tough guy, but then he fails. He has a great fight with Trapjaw, and then he fails, and then he's like an alcoholic later on, and then it's his journey back to becoming strong, and it just and then they fight again at the end, and it's in the it's so good. It's so
Yep.
good.
Yeah. Trapjaw, it's like amazing because it's such a ridiculous looking character, and that should not work in live action at all. It's the
Yeah.
antithesis of like the X-Men wearing like black leather in the
Yes.
first movie,
Yeah.
right? Because he just looks like he's from that cartoon. He just looks like the toy. But they've made him scary to where it's like, oh, this is a scary person. He's like the equivalent of like if you go into a bar and you see someone that's got like covered in tattoos and wearing leather, maybe like a biker, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna keep my distance from this guy. They've done that with this character that's like blue and green and red and has a fucking mechanical mouth. Like there's so many shots of Trapjaw where he's just sort of like looking and assessing the characters, and I don't know who is playing Trapjaw, but like the way that they get him to emote and they get Skeletor to emote, it just like looks perfect.
Yes. Yeah. It's great. Well,
Yeah.
like there's a fidelity to the original animation and the original figures that it's really worth noting and admiring. Like
Yes.
this movie was in production hell for like 40 years. If any of the other versions that they almost made in the 90s or early 2000s had been made, they would have certainly tried to do like that original X-Men thing of try to like remove the silliness from it and
Yes.
change the way people act, change the way people look, took away some of the color scheme, and bless this movie for being like, no, this is crazy colorful. This is what it is, and I respect that.
Yeah, there's a clip that keeps going around where Travis Knight is talking about how in a previous version they had Skeletor wearing like a skull mask, like a golden skull mask. And he's like, no, Skeletor has a skull for a face. And they
Yeah,
even make fun of that in the movie, a couple of times. They say he has a skull face. Um, but yeah, the fact that everything is literal, like they look just like the toys, they act like they did in the cartoon. Mechanex's neck like shoots out and he whips people with his head.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I like it's sort of like a fan film in a way because it's like, oh, this is exactly what a fan would be excited about, but it's done to where it looks like a professional movie.
yeah, absolutely. That's a good point because it's got
Yeah.
that love that a fan film would have, and
Mm-hmm.
that fidelity to the details.
Yes.
We've only got 10 minutes left, and there's so much we can say, but I want to talk about there were moments that gave me chills, actually. The biggest one that like really gave and I didn't expect to get chills, it was when we see Cringer in the beginning as a baby, like a little baby, and like Baby Yoda, baby Cringer. And then he's not in it, but then later on, you know, they are put in Skeletor's dungeon and Teal is like, I have somebody that I have somebody who wants to see you, and then adult Cringer comes out, and I generally got chills, and my girlfriend went like, oh, like it's very cute, but it's very sweet, and it's like that is an important it's not done too much in this movie, but that is an important relationship for He-Man.
Yeah.
And also, I want to give credit to Travis Knight. This movie does not try to fit every single thing in there.
No,
It would have felt overstuffed. Like people are upset that Orko's not really in it. There was no spot for Orko. He's
no,
in a post-credit scene, like giving a lesson, like a PSA, like the original cartoon.
right.
And he looks and sounds great in that. And if there's a sequel, he'll be in it.
Yeah.
But he didn't fill it with everything. So that gave me chills. She-Ra gave me chills. Him riding on Battle Cat at the end gave me chills.
Yeah.
His
You know,
transformation.
yeah. It's funny because like they have a shit ton of He-Man villains in it, but there's so many characters from the toys that they could have used, and they don't put them in there. And
Yeah.
it's not filled with Easter eggs, and there's not moments where they're like, let's stop the movie so that we could be like, hey, get this reference, get this
Right.
reference.
Right.
Like,
And
they don't do that. There is one part though that I'm very curious. I'd like to like find out if this is the case. But like they play Queen's Princes of the Universe song when they
yeah.
escape from the jail, right? And then there's a battle in Eternos. When the heroes are walking, they do this kind of like mocking thing, which is very like Guardians of the Galaxy, where they're walking like they're all badasses,
Yeah.
and then they start like kind of coughing,
So
and they're like,
stupid.
"Oh, that's so gross." I almost feel like Stinkor was supposed to be there,
Oh, that's an interesting thought. That
right?
could
Because like
be. I mean,
it
it would
doesn't
make
really
more sense.
right.
That's one of the weakest jokes.
Right. It doesn't make sense because like they're walking and there's sort of like smoke or whatever from them breaking the prison cell. And then they're like, oh, that's gross. It's like I understand there being smoke and them coughing, but I don't know why they would say like it's gross. And then they don't show
Yeah.
any kind of villain in Skeletor's like they don't show anything gross in Skeletor's castle.
Yeah, that's
So
true. Yeah.
so I'm thinking
That's
like,
really
is that Stinkor? Yeah.
could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, I know they said like if they do a sequel, they want to do Merman. Um,
Merman's in it too.
oh yeah, he has a little behind yeah. Um, to me the worst joke is when Tila calls Cringer a pussy.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's childish and stupid, and it also goes against the whole toxic masculinity thing that the movie is supposed to be about. It was just dumb. It was just super dumb.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I kind of have a problem with the way Adam gets the sword because like
Uh,
I like the fact that they try to keep the Earth part brief and they're like, okay, let's move on. Most of it's in Eternia, but like it doesn't seem like there's that much of a challenge. There's just this sort of awkwardness of him getting the sword, but it's not like he has to be like clever or persuasive to get the sword. It's just in a place he awkwardly gets it and then we move on. You know, I
yeah,
feel
I
like,
agree. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I agree. It's. I when I was first watching it at that moment, I was like, "Is this movie going to have no seriousness in it?"
You're right, right, right.
Like this is probably an old fashioned reference because I'm an old person, but to me, like you ever see the Brady Bunch movie? I'm sure you
Of
have.
course. Yes.
To me, that is the ultimate example of something where it's just the whole thing is making fun of itself.
Yeah.
And there were moments here that it bordered on the Brady Bunch movie where I
Yep.
was like, this is because how can you and there have been other critics that said this, which is like this movie sometimes doesn't know if it has love for it or hate or complete mockery of it. Is it a
Right.
parody or a celebration?
Yeah.
And but by the way, let me say, I'd rather have this end of the spectrum because the other end of the spectrum is Ghostbusters Afterlife, where they treat it so precious, like they
Yeah.
put too much importance on it.
Yes.
Like if there's a spectrum of seriousness to making fun of itself, it would be the spectrum would be Master Universe at one end, then 2025 Superman in the middle, perfect balance, and then Ghostbusters Afterlife on the other end.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Yeah. I mean, I seem to struggle with it a lot more the first time I saw it, but then the second time around, I was able to kind of appreciate like just all the choices they made.
Right.
Like the first time around, it felt kind of more like uneven and like too goofy. The second
Yeah.
time around, I was like, no, it's got genuine personality. Like you bring up the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire or whatever, or well, actually you brought up the Afterlife
Okay.
one, but both of those Ghostbusters movies, I don't think anyone's talking about them whatsoever. I don't think about them. I don't get any excitement from them. But this movie, I feel like it has substance to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even even though it has flaws, I feel like I will be excited to show this to other people, like including my kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
One thing I want to I just want to stick in here, which it was something. The first time I saw it, I was like, well, that went nowhere. But then the second time, I had a great appreciation for it, which is there's a scene where Adam like almost kisses Tila, and then she's like, "But I see you as a friend, like a brother," and they kind of back off. And then there's nothing else in there, and I was like, well, that kind of was pointless. But then the second time, I was thinking about this whole thing about masculinity, and I was like, actually, what you see here is Tila says no, and he respects her no.
yeah,
Whereas, like in an '80s movie, he just keep trying, right?
yep, yep. And then kiss
Try,
at the end.
yeah, yeah. He tries to kiss her. She says no, and then that's it. He lets it go, which is like a good thing to model for people watching this. I think.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's funny, right? Because for whatever like reason, my 10-year-old daughter wanted to make a Pride Month poster at my house, and so we did, right? And we have three characters on it. We have my cat, because I think she thinks that my cat is gay.
Sure,
Then I put the Babadook on there because he's a gay icon, and then
absolutely,
we have He-Man, and I know that He-Man is a gay icon.
absolutely, he is.
And it's funny because like that's a very heterosexual moment is when he goes to kiss Tila, but
Yeah,
then he gets shut down, you know. So it's like they don't pursue any kind of heterosexual thing with him. He's on a date with a woman in the beginning of the movie too,
yeah.
but you know, um, yeah, I had like two other things I wanted to talk about too. I absolutely love the fact that they all laugh and like lean backwards at the end, like
Really, I
the
hated that
really,
because it was too making fun of itself. I hated that, and I hated Adam running away to transform in private, kind of making fun of how in the original show it's so obvious that he's He-Man. Why does he have a secret identity? I don't know.
yeah,
I felt like this is the end. We've had a good movie. Let's not end it with complete self-parody.
okay, okay. I believe me, I understand. I think the first time around, well, I mean, the first time around, I actually was bothered by the fact that like he said He Man like it was embarrassing. That
Yes.
bothered me. Um, I don't know. I actually really liked when they leaned back and laughed like that because it was kind of like I felt like oh, he's been giving them names like Ram Man and Fisto, and I
Yeah.
don't like this. But then it's like, but they're all kind of like they all actually are what he thinks they are. That's right.
That's
That's how I
interesting.
took that scene. You know.
No, that's a good
And
way
then
to read it.
yeah, and then my other point I wanted to bring up was is Dion a character in the toys?
No, but she's a character in, I think, the mini comics.
Okay, okay.
They really mine everything for this, which was so cool. They even have Goat, no, not Goat Boy, Pig Boy.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm so glad you brought up Pig Boy. He's not played by the kid that played him in the Masters of the Universe movie, right?
No, no. But
Okay,
Pig Boy
okay.
was, we talked about it when we talked about the other movie. It was a
Yeah,
contest and you could win, and some kid won and they made him be Pig Boy.
that was
Um,
amazing. Yeah,
uh, no, we could go all day with this, but I do. This is a fun movie. I want to just talk a little bit about the future of this franchise. So
sure.
the movie failed, but then something weird happened, which is Amazon came out. Oh, by the way, I should say fuck the Amazon truck in this that runs over Beastman. Fuck you, fuck Jeff Bezos. Anyway, all right. So Amazon came out and said this opening is exactly the kind of critical first moment that validates our holistic distribution strategy, building awareness and engagement that will carry well beyond theatrical window. Now, look, this could be just something you say to save face because you made a $200 million movie that failed.
Yeah.
But we live in a world now where they could have easily put this movie straight to Amazon Prime.
Yep. Yep.
A lot of times they completely skip theatrical windows. So
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised. People talk about, is there going to be a sequel? Would they really make a sequel to this after how much money it's not made back?
Yeah.
I think that Amazon owns Masters of the Universe now, and kind of like Sony with Ghostbusters, they're like, well, whatever. There's still value in this, whether or not it gave us a big return. They're gonna keep doing stuff. This is
Yeah.
not the end of He-Man, whether you like it or not. It's not the end of He-Man. I could see them making a sequel or a spin-off movie or a She-Ra movie, maybe with a much lower budget, but connected
Yeah.
to this. So,
Yes.
as crazy as it sounds, I do think that there might be more here. But even if there isn't, even if this version of the world ends, there'll be, they'll wait 3 years and just do another He-Man reboot, or you know they'll keep doing it.
Yes. Yes. And all of the He-Man within the past 10 years has been good.
Yeah,
This
I agree.
movie, the CGI cartoon, and the Kevin Smith cartoon.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
She-Ra Princesses of Power is my
Oh my
favorite
God.
thing.
Yeah. That's so
So,
good. Yeah.
so yeah, it's a franchise that keeps getting better. So, I don't think more than financially. I think maybe where this movie fails is that it didn't seem to speak to a younger audience.
Yeah.
But you know, like you just got to look at the world. Like right now, kids are into like analog horror and back rooms and obsession, and maybe and you know, there's this whole thing that I've been hearing like Gen Z doesn't like superheroes, and maybe Marvel, their whole childhood has burned them out. You know, maybe it's I don't know. He Man's not going to go away, but I don't know if this movie won them new audience members.
No, I think that when this does eventually go to streaming, I think it's going to blow up on streaming. I think that
Yeah,
that's
I
where it's
agree.
going to get the views, you know?
No, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a wonderful episode. Peter, thank you so much for being here and talking to me about Masters of the Universe from 2026. What's going on your channels?
Oh, thank you. Yes. Okay, so me and Brian are covering Spider Noir, which is on Amazon, right?
Nice.
We started covering that. We just released a review of Punisher, One Last Kill, and it's so funny because I was not excited or anything during that. Uh, you know, and I think that kind of prompted our discussion that we're going to talk about in our next recording, you and me,
Okay.
because we were talking about possible subjects and whatever. And then on the Lasser cast, the Vampire Lestat, which is like the third season of Interview with the
Yeah.
Vampire, that just came out, and Danny and I are going to do a recording of that. So we'll be covering the Vampire Lestat. So that's on the Lasser cast. You guys can check that out on you know, it's in podcast form, and it's also on YouTube and on Comic Books Transform. Like I said, we're doing Spider Noir. But then we're also going to be covering movies this summer, including Supergirl and then Spider-Man,
Awesome.
Brand New Day. So the summer's a great time for our channel.
Absolutely. Peter,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. We end every episode by saying
I'll say it like Jared Leto's Skeletor. Go bye-bye.